In today's episode of the Platform Presents podcast, I have a very interesting guest here with me today. I'm with Ren Taylor, and she's hailing over as Director of Marketing at Heretto. And Heretto is a very interesting product. It plays in this area of content ops for knowledge management. It's basically one platform to create, manage, and personalize enterprise knowledge, right? For any types of audience that should get access in any type of language or channels and the likes. Today, we want to deep dive into Heretto, what it's all about, and really thinking about growth. And also, Ren mentioned to me that there is a very specific content focus for the team on help and support content. So we want to see, what role that plays in the buyer's journey. So Ren, welcome to the show.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me.
Of course, yeah. So maybe give us a 360 overview. What is Heretto all about in your own words?
Yeah, so Heretto is really about, it's a cloud-based SaaS platform. And what we're all about is being able to create and manage and deploy your help content and your product content, whatever content you have, anywhere you want to. So that's the biggest thing, is being able to deploy content where people want it, where they need it, and being able to reach them in all the different places that they are, because we're a digital first world. And so, it's important to be out there in as many places as possible, and being able to do that in one single platform from end to end makes it a lot simpler.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Now, how do people, basically, let's put it slightly different. Who would be the main users? Like, who are the ones that are, actually using the platforms? What types of organizations are they in? Maybe tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so the type of organization that would use Heretto is someone or an organization that has a lot of content. So we're talking manuals, product content, help content, manufacturing, those kinds of people and companies who have a lot of content. It may have a lot of viewers, a lot of different people who need to access that content. And so we're working with them on their help content. So if you have a lot of things that you want people to read in terms of for your product, for your software, whatever it is, we're going to be the centerpiece for that. And so it's kind of twofold. So business case, most people are using us because they have a lot of that content that they need to deploy. We help them build a help site that's really robust. It has a lot of functionality, personalization, localization, translation, all of it. But the people who are actually in the weeds are typically technical writers. So those are the people who are creating it, information developers. Those are the people who are working within the platform, but everyone benefits from the end result, which is usually a help site.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, what would you say does their journey look like in order to get to know even Heretto? Like, what sort of, the client acquisition channels or the journeys that you guys are leveraging for people to get to know and get started with Heretto?
Yeah, so we've been around for quite a while, so more than 10 years now. And a lot of people who are technical writers found us very easily, very quickly, because we're exactly who they want to be using. And so if you're a technical writer, you likely are using a language called Data. And if you're not, then you probably should be. And so, technical writers are the ones who are coming to us very often. But I think especially once we hit the pandemic, people started realizing that businesses started realizing that people are online, and that buyer journeys are actually starting way before they even know about their problem. Like, people are identifying a problem, they're starting to do their research, and most people are actually pretty far along in their journey before they even contact you. So we realized very quickly we could not rely on inbound business, because people didn't even know that they had the problem that we solve. And so we have shifted a little bit toward more of an educational outbound strategy, essentially, so that way we can tell people and educate them that people want answers, whether it's your customer, your prospect, people who are just trying to use your product, whether it's physical or software, and people want answers. And a lot of times those answers are going to be a deciding factor in whether or not they buy. And so you want those answers to be first and like at the front and center of your online experience for your customers. And so we've shifted toward a lot of educational content to explain that process to people and really leverage that business value to them.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, how do you think then about the website? Like, what role does it play? It sounds like it plays a slightly different role in the buyer's journey than in many other software cases, where it's very focused on understanding, the ins and outs of the products. And you mentioned about help content there. Like, how do you think about the website? Like, what role do you personally think it plays in their buyer's journey?
Yeah, I mean, the website is so important because it houses all of the content that we're trying to educate people on. And it's funny with us specifically, our website is very important. Our main heretto.com, we maintain it. We're constantly updating it. We're really making sure that that is the face of our company. But the real star for us is our own help site. We have a portal that tells you how to use Heretto, that tells you about all of the different concepts that we're talking about. So like, content reuse and localization and personalization and educating about those specific topics, but also showing people how to do it in Heretto. And that help site is what we help other people build. And so that's what we actually put a lot of focus into, basically practicing what we preach and showing that we have a really great help site that we can help other people build as well.
That makes a whole lot of sense. Very cool.
Mhm.
Very interesting that you can leverage your own platform there to actually, in a way, make a point or state the point. Now, how do you think about sort of, what makes, you're coming from that angle of help content, and you've been basically, moving through interesting marketing rules within Heretto even in the recent month. How do you think about sort of, driving conversions on the website, generating demo requests and downloads? Like, is there something that you've learned over the years that you think is very important when it comes to tools, approaches, methods to drive that growth?
Yeah, so I'm actually very new to the entire space. So I came up through product marketing actually,
Yeah.
and product into product marketing, and now I'm taking over a lot of that acquisition marketing. And one thing I'm learning is simplifying the call to action. So we know that we are working in a very, very complex topic that not a lot of people can wrap their head around, especially if you're not already in the business. Like if you're not already an information developer or a technical writer, it's a lot to handle. And so we're simplifying that call to action, simplifying our message in general, but also just speaking to people on a really personal level. I'm originally a journalist, and so I think that's where my marketing chops really come from. And because I love to tell stories and I love to learn other people's stories. And so one of the things that we're always doing is just trying to connect with people, understanding their problems and leveraging that empathy on our website to say, hey, we get it. You have a problem. It's really hard to solve. It's super complex. It feels really big, but it's actually not. Like, when we're here to help make sure that you can do that. And so really, really communicating that empathy in our copy and our website, in our simplified call to action, that's number one for us.
Very good. Now, what I would love to do is like switch gears a little bit, right? We talked
Mhm.
about your journey, we talked about marketing, we talked about the importance of strong help content. What I would love to learn is about you as a marketer, because you mentioned that you've, were sort of growing into the field not too
Mhm.
long ago. But I would like to wonder is like, where do you personally like to learn? Like, what's your go-to resources? Anything that you've picked up that gives you good and valuable content when, deep diving into the field?
Yeah, I actually really I started to subscribe to a lot of newsletters. So a lot of people on LinkedIn are starting to, put out their own newsletters and talking about their own personal marketing journey. So the first thing I did was I followed a bunch of people on LinkedIn that were already very well entrenched in the marketing business, that were leaders in the space. And so then I started subscribing to their newsletters, and it's great because then I get basically a little deep dive every morning in my inbox that says like, hey, here's some cool things that you can try. Here's some things that you should learn. And so I go to the people who have already established themselves in marketing and learn from them. But I also really like to learn hands-on. So I love to get into the tools and really figure out how it works and how I can leverage it for myself. Specifically with Heretto, we're typically a tech com tool that works in help content. But the first time I used it, I was like, oh, we're using this for marketing because it's so easy and it's so simple. And no, we can't do everything with our own tool, but it's been really fun. And so I'm a very curious person, and I think that's what has gotten me into the place that I am today. And I basically just say, okay, I'm going to learn it, and I'll go watch a bunch of YouTube videos. I'll go subscribe to a newsletter. I'll read a ton of articles. Google is my best friend. So I'll get out there and just start trying stuff. And I'm very lucky because Heretto is very much supportive of seeing what sticks, like let's test stuff. As long as we have a reason behind it and we can measure it and we can, get some analytics from it and say, okay, this is what works and this is what doesn't, then we're all very much on board with just, throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks and figuring it out from there.
Cool. To slowly wrap up the interview, I have some rapid fire questions for you. Are you ready for those?
Sure.
What is the last book that you read?
Wow, this is embarrassing. So I just read the ACOTAR series, which is A Court of Thorns and Roses, which I wish I had a better answer, but TikTok got me. TikTok got me, and I was very into the series. It's just basically like a fairy tale series, but it was very good. And anyone who's listening to this, please don't judge me.
What's one single thing that your company is focused on the most at the moment?
Building really good help site experiences for our customers.
If there would be no boundaries in technology, right? What's the one thing that you would fix for your role in marketing today?
Wow, that's a good one. There are no boundaries.
We can get back to it if you like.
Yeah, man, that's a difficult one. Let's circle back to it.
Okay. What's the last thing that kept you awake at night about the company?
The messaging, like, are we saying the right thing? I'm constantly writing in my head. And it happens all the time where I'll lay down and go to sleep, or like lay down to go to sleep. And I immediately think of something that I, of course, at the time think is genius. And so I have learned to keep a notepad by my bed so that way I can just dump all those thoughts and circle back on them in the morning. And it's actually a really great exercise because then it's like they say, write drunk, edit sober. And so it's like write sleepy, edit sober. So that's what I do.
And for the very last question, I'd like to do a little bit of time travel, right? Let's go back to Texas State University, right? You're heading out of formal education into the world of, you've done various actually very interesting things, from marketing to product and the likes. What's the one advice you would give yourself to your journey?
I would tell myself to stick to the things that I love. So when I was younger, I chased the money. As soon as I got my first salary job, I was like, oh, this is great. Money is great. I can be on my own and independent. And while I'm very grateful for the journey, there are times where I was originally in radio. So that was where I first started my career. And I really wish that I sometimes would have, gone back and really done that. Or really, to be honest, I wish I would have just started a podcast back then, because then it would be amazing now.
It's still time.
Yeah, true. I could still do it. Yeah.
That's what people are going to say in 10 years from now.
Yep, true.
Very good. And I really appreciate you joining us for the Pathway Presents podcast. And thanks a lot for joining the show.
Yeah, thank you so much.